My name is Jordan Kurtz. So, a little bit about my background. I come from Southern Colorado, out of Pueblo originally, spent about 10 years in Northern Colorado, living in Fort Collins before I made my way down here to Denver. The thing that brought me to Denver was the combat sports scene. I got introduced to it up in Northern Colorado. There just wasn't as many opportunities, or it just wasn't as readily available, and especially being embraced with some of the individuals that I was early on. I had my I call him my little brother who gives me big brother wisdom. Someone like Yusuf Zalal took me on very early on under his wings, and guys like him, Brandon Royval, Austin Jones, Jordan Titonis of the world, they really kind of gave me a home here in Denver to grow as a martial artist. And the background that got me there was my background in sports and athletics collectively. I played football, I wrestled, I did everything growing up. That's how I met Jordan Titoni, who was a mainstay at Factory X. Brings me down to Factory X in 2018 once I had started up the podcast Comments from the Peanut Gallery, which grew from just a smartphone voice recorder all the way up to being picked up by a network, and it evolved into a show called the MMA Plug. Went on along with everyone from tried and true broadcast partners such as Ron Crux of the world, who are recognized international mainstays of combat sports broadcast programming. So that's a little bit of my background from the media side. Got into it from a grassroots level and have been fortunate enough to meet great people in the process, to have opportunities like this with CJJC. My favorite commentating moment that I've had in the grappling world, I think that getting to watch somebody who has the technical acumen like Basil Hafez in our last card, I think that was, from a broadcaster perspective, seeing him go up against a very accomplished guy in his own respect in Don Rose now with the Subhounds. I was totally enamored with that. From an MMA perspective, I think maybe one of my favorite calls of all time was the very first pay-per-view that I ever did. It was on Fight.tv. It was Fury, I believe, I want to say 37, but it was the very first show that Fury had ever did outside of Texas. They did it here in Denver, Colorado at the National Western Complex. And George the Buzzsaw Martinez picked up a victory over Quan Adwan by triangle. And it was just kind of something that Dustin Jacoby and I were on the call for the fights, and we saw it play out a couple of steps in advance, and it was right in front of us on the broadcast table. And just, I don't know, it was kind of a, wow, this is it. Like, this is really happening type of moment. And there's been so many other great memories. I currently practice jujitsu. I've been doing jujitsu for a few years now. I'm a 3-stripe purple belt. So admittedly, though, I rarely ever put on a gi anymore. I do almost exclusively no gi training anymore at this point. Started off really heavily with gi training under the guise of Professor Busy, Mario Correa. He's still the black belt and the head, who I consider our head jiu-jitsu professor at our gym, but I've had a lot of great people to learn from through the years. Professor Austin Jones, Yusuf Salal, Brandon Royvals of the world. I spent so much time throughout the years learning a lot of my game from Jordan Titoni, who is a very wrestle jiu-jitsu heavy game, or a heavy just smash pressure and be brutal and beat you up in the process type of grappler. And I love having the opportunity to learn jiu-jitsu at a fight gym, because I feel like at times, and this is just my personal opinion, sometimes sport jiu-jitsu doesn't give a true reflection of a self-defense or a fight applicable jiu-jitsu. And so learning some of these things, and at times getting just smashed, if you will, by MMA fighters, has helped me be a better jiu-jitsu practitioner, because that makes me know that I need to be that much more crisp with my technique to be able to overcome this gap of guys who are superior in the athleticism department. We're continuing to up the ante with our production quality, so what we're able to present to you, the viewing public, is continuing to improve qualitatively. We are having nothing, and it's a mainstay from the beginning. We've had quality matches from the start. The product is going to sell itself. We just have to do everything on our end to continue to showcase it in its best respect possible. And yeah, I'm really excited. But I think that, having this team aspect, having wrestling involved, there are so many changes along with just continued growth, that I think this is a product that the combat sports community has to keep their eyes on.